Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Necro Thursday. This is the Necromaniacs horror podcast, and I'm here with Jeff this week. How's it going, Jeff?
It's going all right, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's it's a Sunday, typically slow day of the week, which is nice.
Yes. There are no slow days for me lately. I'm still, the process of moving, as you know, takes months, apparently.
Dude, honestly, it's like I've been living in this place for almost a year, and there's still things I haven't even taken out boxes.
Yeah, I'm in the my Necro podcast room. I just got some stuff set up. I just cleared out most of the stuff, and there's still about, I'm looking at like 15 boxes of posters and remote controls and books and stuff. It's going to take a while to go through all this.
By the way, man, good work on setting up your recording studio there. That's awesome.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Like you got all my, knickknacks and stuff that I've collected over the years, and now I got an actual space for them. So yeah, this is cool. I got some I don't know what you call it, aquatic taxidermy, like sharks in jars and things like that.
I saw that.
Yeah, yeah. I've taken an interest in that over the last 20 years, just taxidermy in general, which I'm sure will offend some people, but what can I say? I like it.
Not over here, man. Like Tina's also into taxidermy too. She's got some stuff. She's got some pieces.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Like, do you have like a deer head or something?
She's got all kinds of stuff. A lot of it's in storage right now because we're planning to, even though I haven't fully moved into my place, we're planning to move in the next few months. So
Oh, okay.
that's one of the reasons why I think like some of my stuff is still unpacked.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in an apartment for a year where a majority of my stuff stayed in boxes and closets because I knew it was sort of a temporary situation.
So yeah, let's run down our the other horsemen and kick things
Yes.
off here. All right. So every other week we kick off the work week with Harwell 666 brought to us by Brandon Legion. Tuesday, the greatest metal podcast on the internet is Into the Necrosphere, deployed by Jackie Smith. Wednesday is Everything Went Black, which is my personal sort of sketchbook of ideas that I just sort of run through. Thursday, of course, is Necro Thursday with Necromaniacs. Friday is Spitball Media with John Draper, Mike Scandato's brother. And of course, Mike and Jeff are co-hosts at Necromaniacs. Saturday is a day off. So go out and enjoy yourself. Sunday is day 2 of Soul Knocks, brought to you by Carl Hikara. Carl has been posting episodes on Thursdays and Sundays. And Carl and I are in full swing with our collaborative project called Darkness Weaves, where we rediscover the work of Carl Edward Wagner, a criminally underrated and obscure horror, dark fantasy, weird fiction author. And right now we're probably dealing with his most famous character, quote unquote, Cain, who's
Mm.
more of a sword and sorcery style character. But as we're discovering as we go through the short stories, even though they're sword and sorcery, they're very, very horror heavy. Like there's a lot of they're mostly horror stories, just taken in different periods of, some fictitious past of the earth.
Yeah.
And Iblis Manifestations brought to you by Cheyenne of the great band Tribax. He operates on his own schedule, so you have to pay attention. And just at the right time, you'll find a new episode of Iblis Manifestations. And that's pretty much the
Indeed.
whole crew, man. The horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. And I got to thank all you guys out there, the Legion. There's a lot of known associates that have been making appearances on all of our shows, and that's great. And I like to see that we have this very strong, growing community of people that enjoy all this stuff, and it's really meaningful. And I just got to thank everyone for listening.
Absolutely, man. I have a blast doing this. Of course, we all got rich doing this podcast, but that's not why I do it. I do it for the fun and fans.
But yeah, man, thanks everyone for your continued support. And we, each and every one of us really appreciates everything you guys have done for us. Are much appreciated.
Absolutely.
So what have you checked out, man? Anything cool? I've actually seen quite a bit of good shit. So I want to hear your what you've been doing recently.
Well, I've been doing these deep dives every week about from bands that that I've loved in the past or still loved, and last week we talked about Neurosis and how much that band meant to me. I went down a rabbit hole of the band Faith No More. Kind of started from our text conversation between the Necromaniacs hosts.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember like we were going back and forth. I forgot where it even started. I think we were talking about new metal,
Yeah,
actually. And then
yeah,
yeah, that's what it was. The conversation started about how whack new metal is, and then we talked about where it came from, and then the subject of Faith No More arose, and that's sort of, I guess, what triggered this with you.
yeah. For me, like if you look at the forefathers of new metal, I think you have to bring up Faith No More and or Mike Patton at least. Those bands seem to worship that guy and his often mimicked vocal style. I hadn't listened to Faith No More a lot in a long time. And I went back and listened to the four Mike Patton albums. I know there's a few before he joined the band. And man, when I was 14 or 13, when the real thing came out, that was just such a huge impact on my life. And listening to those records now, I was like, yeah, I can see what I saw in these records, but it just came out today. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that definitely. I mean the Chuck Mosley stuff was like you got to remember back in the '80s, like the Red Hot Chili Peppers were probably like way more of a high profile band at the time, and I feel like the Chuck Mosley era of the band was like kind of inspired by the Chili Peppers, like Uplift, Mofo Party Plan record maybe, and
Yes.
you know what I'm trying to say, and then.
Oh yeah.
So then when Patton joined the band, and I have that record, the real thing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna front. I used to like that record. And then they have a Black Sabbath cover on there, which is cool, And
Yeah.
then he kind of followed suit because the band would seem to be like in that funk metal, like sort of vibe. And there was a lot of bands doing that. There was like a band in New York called 24/7 Spies. There was like,
I
you remember
remember
them?
them. Yeah, holy
Yeah.
shit, yeah.
Even
Wow,
even some thrash bands like Ludacris had like these kind of funky parts in their songs.
yeah, or like Infectious Grooves, the guys
Infectious
from
Grooves. Yeah.
yeah, that was all the rage for a while. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was crazy. I haven't heard that record in a long time. It holds up really well. And then they sort of get very experimental and weird with Angel Dust, probably the record I like from them the most.
I think like Patton and Faith No More became more of like, this sort of progressive kind of thing, more of their own sort of style, obviously. And though I'm not a fan, like I don't really I can't say that I like Faith No More, but I do respect Mike Patton and all the work that he's done with that band. Like I acknowledge that that's like an important band. You know what I mean? It's just not
Yeah,
something I listen to.
no, totally. I got you. Yeah, I think I'm still gonna go back to those first two records, Real Thing and Angel Dust. The last two were sort of I don't know, it seemed like a band that was like trying to find its footing really, which is weird for, like so deep in your career. Like it just didn't seem to have the identity those first two Patent records had. And I know their guitar player quit or got kicked out or something. I don't know. That probably had a huge part in that.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Mm,
yeah, I see what that's definitely was like a big impact on like like I think we were mentioning like Helmet, Faith No More,
yeah.
uh, being like kind of the godfathers of new metal,
Yeah, and I also said the band that doesn't really get any credit for starting new metal, and people think I'm crazy when I say this, is Godflesh. I mean, if you think about it, they were combining hip hop and metal since the late '80s, like hip hop's drum, like the drum programming and all that was very reminiscent of hip hop at the time.
See what
Um,
you're saying? I definitely you and I think we align on that. However, do you think Fred Durst listens to Godflesh? That's the
No,
thing. That's where it falls apart when you actually
right.
think about the idiots that make that music and what they probably listen to. And I guarantee you Godflesh is not part of what their diet is, you know?
You're probably right. Yes, but they did listen to bands like Helmet and Faith No More, and who I think were definitely inspired by Godflesh.
See that for sure, you know? And yeah, yeah, definitely, you know? And
Yeah,
it's like saying Big Black inspired new metal, you know? It's
it
like,
could be.
yeah, you know, or you think Kid Rock has got like Godflesh records or something like that? I don't think so, you know?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another thing inspired by a text chain we had going. We have a lot of text chains going, listeners. We were talking about Quentin Tarantino and how he Mike Scandato sent us that link, which I completely read wrong. I thought he decided the movie critic was not going to be his last movie, and it's like, oh, great, he's not retiring. But then when I actually read the article, like, oh, he's just not doing the movie at all, and he's looking for something else to do for his last movie.
Yeah,
So
I kind of that movie, the movie critic, that sounded like a really cool plot idea. So I would love to have seen him make that.
yeah, anything he comes up with, I'm excited because you always read about what a Quentin like, oh, his next movie's about this, and then you watch it, and it's not at all what you were expecting. Um, I went back and rewatched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Django Unchained, and the more I watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the more I think like it's when I first saw it in the theater, I was like, yeah, it was cool, but I'd probably put it somewhere at the end, like right behind like Death Proof or right in front of Death Proof or something like that. The more I watch it, the further it goes up to like now
Yeah,
it's in my top three Quentin Tarantino movies.
yeah, totally, dude. I love that movie. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I saw it in the movie theater at the Nighthawk Cinema in Brooklyn. And I remember really, really digging it. I thought it was cool. A
Yeah.
lot of the car stuff, the like nighttime driving, like the
Mm.
that's the kind of stuff that resonates with me, man. Like those long scenes of like Brad Pitt's character driving out of Hollywood into like somewhere out in LA County where he lives behind the drive-in and going into
Yeah,
this like
Van
trailer.
Nuys.
Yeah, Van
Yeah,
Nuys. Yeah.
yeah. I love that scene too, and I mean Quentin Tarantino is just a master filmmaker. He rarely misses. The reason I rewatched Django Unchained because that as well is usually I kind of put that towards the bottom of his filmography for a long time, and this is about the third time I've seen it, and it finally clicked with me. Like I finally like really really liked it.
Yeah, I got to revisit that one too. I saw that. I've only seen that one once. You know what I mean?
Ah, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's got some problems, but ultimately, just on this rewatch, I don't know, just hit differently. It's a really really great movie that I didn't kind of wrote off a while back. Is like, yeah, I don't really like this one. Kind of like too long, it rambles a lot, but I don't know. Sometimes you watch something a couple times, it doesn't quite hit, and then that one moment when you see it the third time, you're like, oh, there it is.
That's one of the few films by him that I don't own a physical copy of.
Yes, I actually do, but I didn't like because I've been reshelving all my DVDs, and I'm like, oh, I do have it. So yeah, I gave it a watch. What about you, man? You've said you had a lot of stuff that you've been checking out.
Yeah, well, firstly, the Blu-ray version of Borderlands, aka The Final Prayer, arrived recently, and
Okay.
that's like that found footage of Lovecraftian like folk horror sort of film that came out a while back.
Hmm.
So that's been great. I really enjoy that movie. So that I watched that. I watched The Tunnel, which is on Shutter right now, and that was like apparently the first crowd-funded Australian horror film to be made ever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's really really good. I mean, I recommend it. I actually think that we should do an episode on it because it was that interesting to me at least. It was like kind of like in some ways similar to the movie we're talking about tonight. There's like a documentary feel to it. and then
Right.
like and cut in with like quote unquote real footage. I like it. It was good. And that it's like a thin line with found footage movies. It could be go either way real quick, you know?
Yes, it absolutely can. I didn't even really, I don't think I even knew about this movie, so I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah, it's like pretty obscure. And yeah, but I thought it was definitely worth checking out. And yeah, so that's something that was really, really interesting. I finally saw, well, I mean, it just came out, Immaculate. The
Yes, yeah, yeah. We were talking about that as well.
very interesting. I'll tell you why. It came
Okay.
out strategically like a week before the new Omen movie,
Mm.
right? The first two-thirds of the film, the plots are almost identical.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But then in the final third, in the third act of the movie, it just goes bonkers. And it's it earned its place. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I
Yeah.
urge everyone to go out and see this movie for sure. You know, it's definitely it's out. You can rent it now. But I'm sure at some point in the next few weeks it's going to be streaming somewhere, you know.
I would imagine so. Yeah. I think I got that movie confused with the Omen movie. Like the trailers look kind of similar.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean there's exactly, it's like you look at the film itself. It takes place in Rome, there's like a lot of Italian being spoken in the movie. Um it has to do with nuns. It's got to do with like the Antichrist. It's like pretty much the same plot, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then they both wildly diverge. And now as a film, a straight up like film,
Hmm.
The Omen definitely wins out because the acting is like way better in it, and it's just a
Right.
better shot movie, I thought, and like the whole production of it was way better.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're talking about the
Um,
new Omen.
the new Omen, yeah. Well, the original one's a classic, but the brand new, the first Omen or whatever the hell it's called,
Yeah, something like that.
yeah, that one is by far, I think, the one to check out if you're gonna get down with these films.
Yeah, I remember you texted me after seeing the first Omen and you talking about how much you liked it, and I was very surprised by the looks of it, the trailer or whatever. I thought, oh, this is one of these like prequels, but it's also sort of a soft remake of the Omen. It seemed to hit a lot of the same beats as the original, and like kind of reminiscent of the Thing prequel that came out in I think 2011. That's what I thought that the first Omen was going to be. It's just sort of a cash grab kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was not very good. I
Yeah, it was
thought,
bad.
but this one though, like it's um it's not a remake, and it definitely fits in the canon of the Omen, universe, except for
Hmm.
one thing that everyone's all, bound up about, where like Damien was like begotten from an actual jackal. That's where everyone's like all upset, that everyone's like
Okay.
crying about how that's different. But I'm like, I'm not going to let something like that stop me from enjoying the movie and giving it praise, really. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's I do want to check that out now on based on your recommendation. And I remember just sort of going through Rotten Tomatoes and seeing that it had like really good reviews, and that surprised me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely worth checking out. The other thing too about both of these films is they have a very uh Italian horror Fulci Gento vibe to them.
Mm.
And Omen, the first Omen, there's a straight up like homage to Possession. And anyone who's seen the Omen film will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh,
There's a
interesting.
scene that's
Yeah.
like completely, very reminiscent, almost like, okay, I get it, and I wonder if the filmmaker included that as like sort of a a nod to real like fans of that film to show that oh yeah, how many of you guys get this? You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. Isn't it crazy how just a couple years ago, like no one had seen Possession and it ends up on Shudder and then you see it everywhere. Like everyone's talking about it, which is a great thing. Yeah. And a major Hollywood film making reference to this obscure like Polish film. I think that's great.
Yeah, that's great. It's finally getting its due.
Yeah, many, many, many years later.
Another film, Mr. T. Murray from Patreon suggested I check out a new Larry Fessenden werewolf movie called The Blackout, or Blackout rather. And I watched it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I just heard about that. Larry Fessenden had a new movie and I didn't even know.
Yeah, it's funny how that happens, man. His movies come out, he's totally unheralded. Like they just fall out of the sky and
Yeah.
find out about him.
Yeah, it was good.
It was good. It was like, typical Fessenden. It's like definitely a horror, low budget,
Hmm.
but there's like, the characters are very Larry Fessenden-esque. There's like a
Yeah.
troubled, angst-ridden guy in it. Like, Barbara Crampton has a part in it.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Dude, Barbara Crampton,
I know. I know.
65. I
Unreal.
think I think Barbara Crampton is Elizabeth Bathory, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, she's still going strong and she looks young, man. Like she does not look 65 at all.
No, no, I was impressed. I'm a big fan of hers. I've always, she's like an OG in the horror world. But yeah, kudos, man. Like, good work. That's all I gotta say.
And where did you watch that? Where is that streaming?
It was like for rent on Amazon for like $2 or something like that. It was like a
Ah,
really
okay.
low rental on it. So yeah, that's what I've been checking out. You know,
Man.
yeah, Tina like turned me on to Nurse Jackie, which I haven't watched. It's my first run through that, so we've been watching Nurse Jackie.
Yeah, I mean, I gave up on that show. I can't remember which season, maybe season three, but I do remember like really enjoying the first season of that and it being sort of a darker show than I was anticipating. I thought it was sort of like a lighthearted comedy, which it definitely isn't.
Mom watched it back when it was out, and I remember my mom telling me to watch it. My mother likes like dark stuff like that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah, yeah,
but I was also like thinking that it's like if you watch a trailer for it, it doesn't portray the film the way the series the way it actually is. The series is fucking pitch black, man. If you ask me, it's like there's all sorts of heavy like death themes in it, and like
yeah,
her character is a terrible person, man.
yeah. She's strung out on oxy or something. I remember.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
she's like cheating on her husband and cheating on like there's no characters are likable really. You know what I mean? It's like everyone has a thing about him that you don't like, except for maybe her husband. Unless something really dark comes out about him like down the line.
right. Yeah. I have a friend that's a nurse too, and I remember talking to her about that show, and she's like, "Yeah, that's kind of what it's." It's like it's a tough job that takes its toll on you.
I could never do something like that, man.
No, hell no, no, no. Kudos to everyone who can be strong enough to do a job like that.
So we have a couple of phone calls this week on the Necro phone. And once again, if you guys want to reach out to us just to say hi or to give us recommendations or to tell us like, some horror related news or something like that, definitely hit us up. You can reach us at 908-913-0782, 908-913-0782. And first up, welcome back, Mike from Telford, PA.
Hey, Necro, it's Mike from Telford. I haven't talked to you in a bit. I apologize for that. Appreciate you guys having a backlog of episodes, so when Mike was on tour, we didn't miss a week. That was fucking awesome. And the Argento episodes, the Fulci episodes, the fucking Lost Highway episode, all great shit, man. I appreciate that. I didn't have a voice for a week here. I saw the last Eat the Turnbuckle show there in Philly last week, and think I might have inhaled some light tube glass or something. Oh, fuck. I'm getting another call. Anyway, we watched a movie last night called Incubus from the 60s. It was a William Shatner movie. I've had the DVD for years and I never watched it. It was a really fucking excellent film. The visuals were outstanding, even though it had like a Christian ending. But if you've never seen that film, definitely seek it out. It was really, really awesome. Not much for dialogue, really. It was filmed in a made-up language called Esperanto, but it was a great film. If you've never seen that, black and white, excellent movie. And anyway, I'll be talking to you guys soon. I'm fucking driving right now, but just wanted to reach out real quick, and I'll try to get back to calling every week. The show's been just outstanding, and maybe do some Bava, the fucking maestro Mario Bava. Do some Bava things, that'd be great. But look forward to every week, and I'll be talking to you later, guys.
Yeah, dude. We haven't heard from you in a while, Mike. So I'm happy to hear that you're okay.
Yes.
You know, the kind of guy I am, I get concerned, and I don't hear from people after a while. I'm like, man, I wonder what happened to Mike, and like,
Yeah.
I guess I could just call him since I have his phone number.
Yeah, there you go.
But good to hear from you, man. I'm happy that and Incubus, Bill Shatner. Have not seen this film, nor have I heard of it.
No, me neither. No.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that a young Bill Shatner's in it makes me excited to check it out too. And Mike and I have been talking about Mario Bava. I mean, we're into all that like old school like genre stuff, like international films like that. So I mean, we're definitely Bava's someone that we've had and we're in talks with doing something with Bava for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I have 3 Bava box sets, and I think I've watched about half of the films I have of his. But yeah, I mean, he's made some very deeply influential films in his day.
So far, we've done Fulci, we've done some Michele Soavi, we've done Argento, we've done Martino. Why not expand out to Mario Bava and give our homage to like the greats. Another film that I want to do, this made me, is Don't Torture a Duckling, the Fulci film, which is like the angry Fulci. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know that one. And actually, I didn't know the film you guys covered last week with the sect. I didn't even know that existed.
Well, it's on Shudder now, so you can watch it.
Oh, nice.
They have like the 3. I mean, Suave doesn't have that much output,
right?
Really. You know what I mean? He's got that. He's got The Church, and he's got Cemetery Man, aka De La Muerte de la More, and like the quality between those 3 films, like I'm not going to say quality because the way my rating is, The Sect is probably number 3.
Okay.
Like The Church is cool. De La Muerte de la More is like one of my all-time top 10 favorite films ever. So that one,
great movie,
masterpiece.
Yeah, I watched Stage Fright on Shudder not too long ago and was very about it.
Yeah, I think that Suave definitely hit his stride, hit his like peak with Cemetery Man. So but The Sect is worth checking out. It's funny, I was thinking about it recently because the beginning of that movie is so cool. Like it starts off in the desert with like this kind of Manson-esque like guy emerging out of like the like the desert, and he murders this like hippie group, and you think it's going to be like a different type of movie, and then it just shifts to Europe like 20 years later or something like that, and that
right, yeah,
and like there's no real reconciliation between that beginning part and the way the rest of the film proceeds. I don't know.
yeah.
Somewhere in all that stuff, I think is a great film. It just definitely was not made the way it should have been made.
Yes, judging by your episode, and a very uncharacteristically low rating from Mike Scandato.
I know, man, and we're marks for a lot of this Italian stuff too. So,
yeah. Right on.
Next up, we got Benji from Georgia.
Hey guys, this is Benji from Georgia. I was just catching up on, missed the last couple of weeks podcast. I was just listening to the one regarding Lost Highway, and the soundtrack, and it got me thinking about that's probably my second favorite soundtrack from the 90s as far as movies go. The first being The Crow. Kind of wanted to get your guys' ideas of like what you remember about that soundtrack, and two things. Have you seen the trailer for the remake of The Crow? And then would you, I don't think you've ever covered it, but would you consider covering The Crow? I think that's, for me anyway, that's kind of like a pinnacle of high school, right in my wheelhouse. When that movie came out, I was, I think, a junior in high school, so that was really like a very key moment for me, and that movie stuck with me over the years, and just been thinking about it a lot since there's a remake coming out. My opinion on that isn't great, but who knows? But just want to get your guys' thoughts on that movie, and if you've would ever consider covering it if you haven't already, and then if you've seen the trailer for the remake. All right, have a good day.
Thanks for calling in, Benji. Much appreciated. And yeah, the soundtracks, man. Lost Highway soundtrack is great, and the Crow soundtrack is killer too.
Oh man, The Crow came out when I was a junior in high school, so like perfect time for like a gothy, emo-y kind of movie like that, right? And that soundtrack is like one of the iconic soundtracks of the '80s. You got Nine Inch Nails covering Joy Division, Cure. It's it's perfect.
Got Rollins Band doing Suicides, Ghost Rider.
Yeah, the only other soundtrack I think that that I can remember from the '90s that was like that popular was Judgment Night.
Oh yeah, that's actually, you
mean,
want to talk about inspiring new metal? That's like that soundtrack.
There you go.
Single-handedly inspired new metal.
Yeah, exactly. It was such a goofy premise, but like but it comes up when I think of iconic '90s soundtracks.
I don't even remember the movie, but I remember the soundtrack.
Yeah, oh, of course you do. Yeah, it's like Faith No More's on it with like Booyah Tribe and Cypress Hill with Sonic Youth. It was just sort of a bizarre pairing.
Helmet and House of Pain.
Yeah, that one makes sense, kind of.
Yeah, no, that one definitely makes sense for sure.
Yeah,
that soundtrack is sick, man. It's like you got Pantera covering The Badge by Poison Idea. Nine Inch Nails, you mentioned Jesus and Mary Chains on that. It's like kind of like a perfect collection of bands for that era.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now the remake of this film, what are your thoughts on that? Because that's something that Benji was asking about.
Yeah, they've been trying to get a remake to The Crow off the ground for I think about 20 years now. And at one point Aquaman was attached to, I forget his real, Jason Momoa. I think he was attached to play Eric Draven. And I don't know, man. When I saw that trailer, it was sort of jaw on the floor, like, holy shit, this is awful.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, I mean, some things, just maybe they should be left alone. And I think The Crow, there's definitely, improvements or changes you can make to that and still make a good story. But I mean, the way they went with this, I mean, not to, Eric Draven looks like a SoundCloud rapper now. And it's just sort of silly. And I thought the tone of the trailer too, with the ultra violence, I thought it was just a weird way to go. Like, that's not what The Crow is known for. And obviously you can go your own way with it, but they seem to have gone really over the top with the violence.
I've been against remaking this film since I heard that there was even an idea of doing that. I'm a fan of the J.O. Barr comic book too. That's my first entry point with the Crow character, was reading the comic books. So so I think, to me, the story was told already, like decades ago. It was like this great comic book came out, independent comic. The movie came out, Brandon Lee, great soundtrack, excellent atmosphere, excellent characters. Why fuck around with it? It's like, why remake it? You know what I mean? Like, why even like mine that again? It just should exist as a standalone iconic film that you can just go back to and watch. Like, I don't even see the point, aside from the commercial aspect of it, really.
Right. Yeah. And I know they made a bunch of sequels to the original too that I never watched because you know what, I'm just not interested. Like that first one is I mean, for the time, I think it was like a perfect movie. And I think kind of like gave comic book movies a template to like this is what it should look like. It seemed like every comic book movie had that ultra dark feel to it.
Absolutely. Like the thing is too is the on YouTube there's like some documentary stuff with the creator. And the guy, like that's the thing, man. To me, like the story, the comic book, the movie, and the story of the creator are just so intertwined that and so real and emotional that
Mm.
to have someone else take it over, I think it's just ridiculous. And like the guy was dealing with like real loss and pain and PTSD and all sorts of stuff when he wrote the story. And I'm just like,
Right.
let it exist the way it is, and that's it, man. Why like play around with it?
Right. And I mean, it'd be one thing if I think they were really trying to respectfully like honor the original film, but this just I don't know. I felt like it was shitting on it. Like I really, really didn't like the trailer.
Yeah,
And
I mean, we'll probably we will definitely. I mean, maybe not definitely. I imagine that we'll cover this film. You know what I mean? And maybe
yeah,
talk about it the way Benji was saying, like in contrast to the original or something like that.
that'd be interesting. Yeah. Speaking of trailers, I just saw. Well, I didn't see a trailer, but I just read the Blair Witch Project is being remade, and that's sort of another film like this with you're not going to improve on it. You already showed you can't improve on it with the two sequels. So why remake this? Just let the original exist. Some things just can't be touched.
The only thing that you could do with the Blair Witch Project, I think, is like maybe like expand, like take the original film as like its own sort of entity, and then develop the mythology around it or the backstory or something. That I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. You know what I mean?
I am curious to see what they come up with because I did watch both Blair Witch sequels, bad as they were. They did try to do something different, but yeah, I think Blair Witch, like The Crow, is just one of those movies that exists in its time and it worked and defied the odds and became hits and just let it be.
Yeah, no, totally, man. So that's disappointing, but what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? Yeah, exactly.
So that brings us to this week's feature film, Late Night with the Devil. Very much a talked about film. It seems to be everyone's paying attention to this movie. Everyone has their opinions about it. And it's finally available to stream on Shudder. And it's a Shudder production too.
Mm,
So let's see here. Written and directed by Colin Cairns and Cameron Cairns, two brothers.
okay.
93 minutes long. First released at South by Southwest March 10th, 2023. And then in the US, the 22nd of March, 2024. And in April, it was released this month. It was released in Australia. So yeah, it's out there now. I was fortunate enough to catch it in the movie theater, which was an excellent way to see this film.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Like, was it a full crowd? Was it, what was
Oh,
that like?
oh, I mean, we went on a Wednesday night, so it's not a big movie night really. Um, it was kind of like this not so I wouldn't say we were planning to watch the movie in the theaters, but it was kind of like let's do a midweek like date night. So we got dinner, and there's like this excellent theater out in Secaucus called the Show Place, and it's like one of those draft house style places where there's like a 5 or 6 of them across the country, and you can get
Nice.
like yeah, you get a meal, you can order like and it's not like AMC. AMC is like the total bottom of the barrel version of that. This is like
Yes.
competent staff, clean. It's not infested with rats. It doesn't smell like a locker room like the one in Jersey City. You don't get a staph infection if you go to the bathroom there, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Um,
we just like have to push here on Necromaniacs that AMC theaters are trash,
AMC
and
theaters are trash, and I completely boycott them now. And like I
me
was saying
too.
before on like past episodes, like I used to live like minutes away from one, and when I lived in Metuchen, New Jersey, and I would go there by myself all the time. But it was like I don't know, it's different when you go there as like a date with like a lady. You know what I mean? Like I
Sure.
would go there on Friday nights and just sit there alone, and watch the movie and leave. It was no big deal. Just take it as it is. But when you go there and then you're with like a woman, your girlfriend, and you're just like you start seeing how lame and just bad and shot those movie theaters are. You know what I mean?
The absolute worst. They attract the dregs of society. These
They
people don't care
do.
about movies.
They do,
Yeah,
man. And that's the other thing. So anyway, we went on a Wednesday night, and there really wasn't. I would say there's probably about 9 people there. It wasn't really
oh, okay.
packed, but like I said, it was a Wednesday night.
Yeah,
But it was great to see it on a big screen with a good sound system and that sort of thing.
yeah, absolutely. This seems like I can imagine watching this in like a packed house at something like South by Southwest, like with I think that would just be like such a great environment to see a film like this. Because in a way, it's a lot, there's an audience already in the movie.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go on and run down some of the cast here. All right. So starring in this film, and it's funny, David Dastmalchian as his plays a character, Jack Delroy. He's the host of the Night Owls TV show. Okay. It's a late night TV show. I feel like David Dastmalchian has been heading towards a starring leading role for years.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
you've seen him before. He's always playing like a supporting character, you know, and he's always a memorable member of the cast. Like you always remember him.
Yeah. Like he's in one scene in The Dark Knight, and I remember him every time after that.
Yeah. I really, really loved seeing him in a leading role. And yeah, it was great. He killed
Yeah,
it, I thought. Yeah.
absolutely. 100% killed it.
Yeah. We have Laura Gordon as June, and she's a parapsychologist slash author. Ian Bliss as Carmichael Haig, a former magic man turned skeptic. Faisal Batsi as Christo, a psychic.
Hmm.
Ingrid Torelli as Lily. Now, Lily is the focus of this movie, rather. And she's the survivor of a mass suicide who is deeply disturbed. And she's under the care of Dr. June, the parapsychologist and author. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of other people in this film, come and go. But those, I think, are the main characters.
Right. Now, Mike, would you describe this movie as found footage?
That's an interesting question because there are elements of found footage in this. However, it has more of like a documentary feel to it. Like I was saying, that movie, The Tunnel, kind of combines like
Mm,
documentary with like found footage. So found footage, when I think of that, it's like the whole film is like clips cut together.
right.
This one follows like a narrative. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels more like when it starts, it feels like it's going to go the mockumentary route a little bit. But the more you watch it, the more you realize this isn't like shot like a late night talk show, and it's shot more like a regular movie. It was interesting. It's almost like a bait and switch. Like you're about to watch a found footage movie, then oh wait, you're not. Um, which I'm definitely happy about. I think this works better as a just a regular film than trying to explain, the found footage angle.
Yeah, it really, this movie really is, I feel, similar to a movie like Skinamarink, which is like
Mm,
definitely like a turning point, like a new sort of introduction of how to tell a story. That's kind of how I feel like this film was like that. It's like this kind of like a mile marker in filmmaking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a little bit of this, it's a little bit of that. There's definitely some like, the movie opens with like a mini documentary and that gives you like a very, very big exposition dump that it's one of those like smaller criticisms I have. I think maybe spreading that information out throughout the movie here and there would have been beneficial, but this is how they did it. And because they mentioned that this guy is his wife passed away, who he loved dearly, and he was also part of this mysterious group. And you think, is this all going to come back?
Yeah, like a Bohemian Grove-esque sort of owl cult or whatever, and of course the name of his show is Night Owls, it's like a connection there.
Yeah, exactly. And the Bohemian Grove, I think, was made famous to a lot of people, but didn't Alex Jones infiltrate them or something like 20, 30 years ago?
Like it's funny, like I remember that, but like now in light of Alex Jones's fall from grace, part of me wonders if that even was real,
Yeah, that guy, yeah. What a fucking joke. But anyway, yeah, you get this like mini documentary, and again, it's very like a found footagey mockumentary kind of feel to it. Like you have this bit of information now that they didn't, that you need to have. So it's almost a giveaway, but the movie's so good you don't even really like think about it.
Yeah, it kind of shows the rise and fall of Jack Delroy. How he's like sort of on the cusp of really breaking big, and then the tragedy happens and it just sort of falls in popularity. And it's funny, like Johnny Carson looms heavy over him too. Like there's always this thing about sort of rivalry between him and Johnny Carson, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, which brings me to the next thing I wanted to ask you about the 70s setting. Did you think it was necessary to the plot or just like nice window dressing?
Um, I think that in some ways it was necessary because talk shows are not like you couldn't really set something like that in the modern world. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It would be like a 10-minute YouTube clip or something.
Yeah, like there aren't really talk shows like that anymore where they have like
Right.
variety shows and where everyone tunes in and there's only like a limited number of channels to watch it, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the 70s setting was important. I think that it also created like an otherworldliness too because of the way everyone looks. It takes you out of the present and puts you into a different world.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm not criticizing. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I like that it looked a little like they touched up the film a little bit to make it look like a more like a 70s production. I just really liked it aesthetically. And it just got me thinking, I'm like, did you set this in the modern time? And because of what you just said, I thought, no, you couldn't. Wouldn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it would take place on like the Joe Rogan experience or something like that.
Yeah. Not to mention, I feel like cults and things like that were more on people's minds back then in the 70s and early 80s or whatever with the satanic panic and all that kind of stuff.
I think Satanic Panic kind of like happened a little bit later than 77.
Right, yeah.
But I'm not going to criticize that. I mean, that it's still, the Manson murders happened in like the late 60s. And, so you can say that like that sort of occult crime stuff was like still happening in 77,
Right. Okay. Yeah. I liked it, I definitely liked it.
One thing that I did not follow up on was in the beginning, they have that Pentagram song. And I know Pentagram has existed since the 70s, but I don't know if that song was actually available at the time of this movie was supposed to be taking place.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't even catch that.
Yeah. It's Forever My Queen is like in the soundtrack when they're doing that montage in the beginning.
Okay. All right. Nice catch. I only watched this once, by the way, so it's probably a few things I didn't catch.
Yeah. So that's pretty much the setting of the film. And then we catch up with Jack, more kind of like on the eve of his return. He's trying to have like get back into the mix, like revitalize his career, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, the ratings are slipping, and the show doesn't seem to have Johnny Carson sort of left him in the dust, and he wants to do something extreme for ratings, and they do this Halloween special.
Yeah, and of course that's what we find that is he's had a bunch of these occult sort of people lined up. One of them is Christo, the psychic, and then he brings in Carmichael Haig, who's like a skeptic who himself was like definitely someone who was into that whole sleight of hand and misleading, and then the headliner of the show is this whole thing with June and Lily. She's the survivor of like a mass murder suicide by the satanic cult, and then there's been
Right.
a book published and this sort of thing of her, you know probably like an exploitative kind of like true crime version of her story.
Right, exactly. The whole evening he has planned seems very exploitive, don't you think? Like this seems like it seems a little desperate.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I get it. The guy's like his past is prime, and maybe it was time for him to sort of pack it up, and move on to
Right.
something else. But I guess I imagine if you're ever sort of reaping the rewards of popularity, that it's hard to let go of something like that. You know what I mean? And you want to preserve that feeling. So that's why he's making this last ditch attempt to get into the good favors of the public.
Yes. And it says a lot about the acting of David Dastmalchian. Did I pronounce that right? That I feel like they could have played this character as like just either like a total jerk or a total like, oh gee shucks, nice guy. And I really like this performance because he's somewhere in an area where you're not sure the kind of person he is. He seems like a nice, decent guy, but also he's so desperate for ratings and attention. And it's just little things here and there, his performance that really sold the movie for me because you're not really sure about this guy. At
Yeah,
least that's what I took away.
he's a very subtle actor, definitely.
Yeah, and which is interesting because he's known for playing sort of over the top, kind of caricatures. You know what I mean? Like he's like the crazy guy in The Dark Knight, and of course he played Mister Polka Dot in Suicide Squad. And this is just like a really great showcase to show like he's a tremendous actor.
He's also in Last Voyage of um the that Dracula middle passage
Right. Yeah.
Demeter, the Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yeah.
Very much he's unrecognizable in that because he's like wearing a like a beard, and
Mm.
it's hard to pick him out. And he's like definitely like a supporting character in that.
Okay. Yeah. So he can definitely anchor a movie himself, and I like it too that he's surrounded by these characters who kind of act like they are on a talk show. Like the skeptic guy is very very theatrical, and obviously the opening psychic is very much feels like a character. Like he kind of starts with an accent, and when things start to go wrong, that accent slips a little.
There is this sense of impending dread when we talk about June and Lily. There's this like obviously there's a feeling that something's going to happen, but they do a really good job of building up this sort of idea that by even going forward with this, they're taking a chance.
Right, exactly. Yeah, like the Dr. June is very like she's like, "Oh, I don't really think this is a good idea. Like I let you talk me into this," and it kind of hints at a little bit of romance between the Doctor and Jack, which again, very subtle. Didn't hit you over the head with it, but something's going on between them.
Yeah. So yeah, like you're saying, Christo sporting this put on accent, and then when things start going bad for him, you see that he drops the accent. He's just like some dude from like New Jersey or something like that.
Yeah, and I love it too. Like when they kind of cut back, he just looks like complete shit after coming back from the commercial break. I thought that was pretty funny. This movie is very funny too, by the way.
Which is not out of place, they don't, but it's like it's the humor is placed in a very interesting way in this movie because it's like definitely there's some broad strokes, but it fits the vibe of the film, because you think about it, we're on a talk show, it's late night, there's like the 70s, you have to be broader back then, like people aren't maybe as subtle as they are now.
Right, yeah. Like it doesn't this humor doesn't feel shoehorned in or forced at all. It feels very natural. You have like his like Ed McMahon style guy. I forget like his name, but that character is very funny. He's sort of like I got the idea he was religious and was very against all this stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Also, there was like they would paint in the audience a lot, and there was like, and it's funny, this thing, there's a guy in a skeleton outfit.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that.
And like you
Um,
think that he's just like not clapping or not reacting, he's sitting down and very, stoically interacting, like not interacting with anyone. And you wonder, like, what the hell's going on with this dude? Is he going to be part of this whole thing?
that's what I wanted to ask you. Was he it because I don't feel like that was just there for the sake of it. It felt like it meant something. Because right next to him, if you think about it, there's someone dressed as the devil, and the person dressed as the devil is very animated, but the guy in the skeleton costume is just sort of there. It is creepy, and they don't really they cut to him a lot in audience shots, but no one on the stage seems to notice him, and I kind of thought that's where it was going to go, like, but it didn't.
It just kind of left you hanging with that. And I have to watch this a couple more times maybe and just see if there's any kind of connection with him.
Yeah, I wonder if he's some sort of demonic observer or something. I just feel that that was not an accident. I wish I had a better theory or something about it, but I definitely feel like, yeah, it was intentional.
So then finally we get to the point where Lily and June come on stage and you know, it's very unsettling, I have to say.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but yeah, it's the movie goes like I wasn't really sure where this movie was going to go. I really wasn't. If it was going to have an over the top ending, is it going to be subtle? Is it going to leave questions? And it definitely goes big. Um, one thing I
Goes
wanted to
big.
ask you,
Yeah, it
yeah,
goes big and it goes in places where I really didn't think it was going to go. But
me
let's talk
neither.
about the performance of Lily's character performance.
Yeah.
Ingrid Torelli, I think, did a great job as Lily.
Oh yeah, definitely. Child actors, they can either go, like sometimes can go the wrong way. She's great with these little subtle, like she's just an awkward and weird person, and she does it with body language and her eyes, and it's a really great performance. Like you just look and something's very off about this person.
And it really underscores the fact that she lived or grew up separate from regular society and probably has never been exposed to some of the things, like even maybe television too.
Yeah, she doesn't fully grasp the situation she's in. I felt like.
Yeah. Yeah, she
Um,
keeps looking at the audience and the camera and she's like, you could, that there's like this very uncomfortable, out of her element sort of characteristic to the way she plays the character.
yeah, absolutely, and it's a really, really great performance. Again, like across the board, I thought the acting was great in this. I really liked the guy who's the skeptic, who's sort of like just really dismissive of everyone on the stage.
Yeah, and it really is set up like the way of like that setup is like kind of like a talk show, you know what I mean? Like there's like opposing sort of stances, and yeah, I thought that was really really cool.
Yeah, one thing though, like it didn't really remind me of a late night talk show. It kind of reminded me something more of like Geraldo Rivera
Yeah.
or something like that. That was the only thing I was like, oh, that's a little weird, but whatever.
And it also, like, for some of the younger listeners, like, you guys have never probably even experienced anything like this before, really, if you think about it, it's like,
Hmm.
or maybe like if you go on TV Land or something and you watch old talk shows or something, or game shows or things like that. But that entertainment was just different back then.
Yeah, very, very much so. Like this reminded me, or the Phil Donahue show with Ice T, Jello Biafra, and people from the PMRC. Like those kind of gimmicky things like this. It was like a dime a dozen back then.
Yeah. Yeah. And also that just kind of gives you more insight into Jack Delroy's characters that that he probably has fallen very low into the pecking order of talk shows. And this is, his return to favor.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to ask you about the sort of lore of this stuff because this is your territory. Abraxas. That is a real quote unquote demon, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. That's something that's out of like the occult. Like the Abraxas definitely like part of the occult pantheon of beings.
Right. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I just figured. I mean, like, I know you're well versed in that stuff, or more so than I am.
Yeah, it's like he's like part of more like the Gnostics believe in Abraxas.
Mm,
And he's like a fallen angel, in some of those belief systems.
right.
Yeah.
And apparently the term abracadabra comes from him, which the movie says. I don't know. I would assume that those researched and they know what they're talking about.
That I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't that I can't confirm or deny that abracadabra comes from that. So, that's something I don't really know about.
Right. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about the ending. I don't want to give it away. I think this movie really works if you go into it completely blind, I think.
Yeah, me too. I also like I was aware of this film like for months before it was released, and it sounded
Yeah.
like exactly like the kind of movie I would enjoy. But I did not try to read too much about it. I didn't try to find out what the plot was about. I mean, the plot itself was very simple, but I didn't want to. I wanted to go in cold, and I wanted to like experience it without any influence. Of course, the one thing I did find out before seeing this was the whole controversy of AI art and things like that. So, you have any thoughts on that?
No, I do remember that, and I guess there was a little boycott from people over it. From what I understand, there was three AI generated images to I think it was like those cutaway cards to make it look more 70s. Now, could you hire a person to do that and give that person some work? Yes, of course, absolutely. But is it worth not seeing this over this? No, I don't think it is.
Well,
I
also I'm sorry to
no,
interrupt
no,
you.
that's fine. Go ahead.
Yeah. But the thing is, they don't tell the whole story about the AI.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
yeah, the whole story is that someone used AI to generate the base image. Okay. And then a graphic designer modified that base image into what you saw in the film. So someone was employed to come up with a design.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not as like nefarious as some people might have made it out to be. It's like, oh yeah, the whole movie is AI. It's all generated by a computer. It's like that's not true 100%. But it's debatable whether or not you should react so hard to that. You know what I mean? Because I do know that there's actually, I mean, there's a guy, I'm not going to name names, that we know that has used AI to generate the base image of a cover of a book that he did recently. So,
Mm,
but
yeah.
is he like, what's that all about? Like, is that like, how do you feel about that? Like, is that something you're going to boycott this book because the base imagery, some of it was generated by an AI, but ultimately a real artist actually just used that as a tool to develop his own work?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, this is the beginning of the future with this stuff. And it's going to be complicated for sure, but I definitely don't think people should boycott this movie.
No, you're shooting yourself in the foot by boycotting it. You know what I mean? It's like throwing out like this incredible experience with like because it doesn't meet your criteria 100%, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Um, it didn't seem to overshadow the movie though, which is good because I did remember hearing about that, and it didn't come into my head once while I was watching it. It was sort of after the fact. I was like, oh yeah, there was that whole AI thing about that movie. I wonder. I got to look up what that was about. So
Yeah.
I'll say
Yeah.
that, like, if you're against it, whatever, like it won't change your experience of watching this.
And honestly, those sections were so minor, you know, that like the movie isn't made or break, you know, it doesn't make or break the film, like the presence of those images.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Totally
Yeah.
agree. Um, so I guess I can't really talk about this without giving too much away, but I feel like I'll just say this. There's a few different ways you can interpret this movie. I felt you can take it at face value, or you can take it as some sort of metaphor slash uh, not maybe hallucination. You can take this a few different ways because I have talked to people who had very different takes on the ending than I did.
Yeah, kind of my take on it, if you're interested,
I am
is that
interested.
it is kind of, it's more of like not a, maybe not a hallucination, but more of like it's almost like a Twilight Zone episode. You know what I mean?
Yes,
How
yes, that's
like
yeah,
like I almost expected Rod Serling to pop out and say, you know, in the Twilight Zone, you know,
yeah,
sometimes exploitation, you know, leads you down a pathway to the Twilight Zone, you know, like
yeah,
something like that. You know, it's like it to me, it had that kind of vibe to it. And it's like, um, I'm taking it as face value, but it's like a passion play in the fact that it is giving you a warning about exploitation and that sort of stuff. You know, because there's other things which we didn't really mention that has to do with with Jack's wife
hmm
and her passing that really give you an insight into what kind of character he has.
right, exactly. Yes.
You know?
Yeah, you could sort of look at it. We were talking about the audience earlier, and the audience can almost be seen as symbolic of Jack's inner monologue about what's going on in this guy's head. You can look at it like that. There's a lot of doubt and guilt, and maybe like the people dressed up in the audience here. There's some sort of different manifestations of that. Um, or you can, like you said, it can be taken at face value. And I think either way you take it, or any way you take it, rather, is it's still a really great movie.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And like I said, I take it more as like this is like the actual story, but it's got a heavy duty allegory. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. I think you nailed it when you said the Twilight Zone. That's exactly what I was thinking. When I was watching it, and I'm thinking just like mine, I was like, this would play pretty cool in black and white too. I think.
Dude, I would love to see this in black and white. Definitely.
Yeah, I would, I
Yeah.
would, I would love that. But yeah, I don't want to spoil the movie at all. I think you should go in as blind as possible. That said, I mean, we talked about this a little bit before. Is this the best horror movie of the year so far?
So far, this one is my top so far, man. Like I haven't really put pen to paper. I probably should since we're approaching the midpoint of the year. I haven't put pen to paper about what my rough running order is of movies, but this one in my mental notes, this is number one right now.
Yeah, yeah, same with me. And if it stays my number one, I won't be disappointed. This was really high bar to hit for this year. I think this is a great movie, really interesting. Uh, I can't say enough great things about it.
Yeah, totally. So what do you give it as a score?
5.
Me too. Now, I haven't given
Yeah.
it 5 out in a long time, man, but this gets
No,
a
you
5 out of
haven't.
5 for me.
Yeah. Like I said, there's a few like minor little things about, like they kind of play with the found footage. It didn't really go that way. Just minor things that like complaints, but I mean, I can't really find any flaw with this movie. And I think the more you watch it, the more you'll get out of it.
Yeah.
I think maybe I'll have a very different take after watching this for a second time, and I'm looking forward to it.
It's enjoyable and it's definitely rewatchable. And you dig the characters, and like Jack definitely has a character arc, even though this is like all like in 1 hour or whatever. Like this show almost takes place in real time, It's like, but you get an arc with him where he starts in one, you perceive him as one type of guy, and then you have a completely different idea about him at the end.
Absolutely. And yeah, again, I mean, it's such a great performance. He plays it very subtly till the very, very, very end. He never goes off the rails. I kind of expected him to kind of go that way by the end, but man, he just completely sticks to the landing throughout the whole film, man. It's a great fucking performance.
And David Dastmalchian, man, it's like definitely a guy I'm looking forward to seeing more of his work in the future, as a leading role, in leading roles.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this movie is going to be around for a long time. I think this will earn some sort of classic status in a few years. That said, I really hope they don't make more sequels or anything like that, because this is a great standalone movie.
Yeah, definitely no sequels, man. I hope that would be that would just cheapen the whole experience.
Yes, but it was a hit, so you never know. Money, like, there wasn't supposed to be a Joker 2, but yeah, here we are with a trailer for the Joker 2. So anything is possible.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And definitely stay tuned for next week, because Mike and I are going to be covering a movie that's somewhat related to this one. And I'll let you guys try to figure out what it is.
All right. Sounds great.
All right, guys, take care.
Take care.